Welcome to the QCI Show, episode 9, coming at you live on Friday, September 19th. Life is good. The sun is out, fresh off an airplane. How you doing this week, Case?
I mean, bigger question is how you're doing. I mean, we barely got this show off the ground because you can't get it's a tech and real estate show, and you can't
My tech stack is garbage. It's
you can't
absolutely
work a
garbage.
computer.
I lost my shit on an airline on JetBlue last night, coming back from Blueprint, which we'll talk about in a little bit, because I can't get on the Wi-Fi. My phone was working, my computer's not working, and then I don't know. Listen, I've been a ThinkPad guy for years. Ever since I got my first ThinkPad at Babson back in 2003. Always been a ThinkPad guy, and I just bought a Mac. First time Mac.
I do. Well, I like how your tech stack fluctuates with social pressure, because didn't you switch from a Mac to the ThinkPad when you were taking the financial modeling course with all the
I got
Wall Street guys?
Beat down. Showed up with a Mac to train in the street, financial modeling years ago, and just
I'm
got
shocked they let you in. I'm shocked
they were just like, dude, get out, go behind your fucking PC, and then come back to class.
Little red ball. Stupid little red ball. And now you're in multimedia and you're trying to use a ThinkPad. Like,
no,
figure out who you are in life, man.
Well, I changed. I'm a chameleon. Depends on what I'm doing. The podcast is blowing up. A lot of friends of the pod at Blueprint this week, and so now I got to figure out how to get better with a Mac.
There was a lot of chatter about you on LinkedIn. I posted
your post did go viral.
A lot of hair talk. A lot of Greg's hair.
I mean, listen, I'm still trying to figure out a couple things with the pod. One, tech stack. Two, trying to figure out where to look, like camera and notes and go between tabs. Three, I'm trying to figure out my wardrobe. I don't know what
today is not great.
I got a wrinkly t-shirt. And then my hair. I don't know. Do I grease it back Gordon Gekko style? Do I let it just go coiffy? Somebody said it would look like a squirrel.
Yeah, Roy Hirschland from Savills said it looked like a squirrel. The tech community seemed more in favor of commercial real estate, very much out on the hair.
Yeah, Balter was in on the hair. Troiano, Mikey Traps was in on the hair. And then Hirschland says it looks like a squirrel. I don't even know what that means. Is that good? Is that bad? I hate squirrels.
He seems like an animal lover, so I read it as a compliment.
Yeah. Remember that squirrel there was a guy to pet squirrel and what was it? Somebody in New York that came and just killed his squirrel? I don't know. We'll have to
terrible. Sounds terrible.
All right, we got
These are the important things we intend to cover.
We have a full show today. So the anchor story, not a super surprising anchor story. We talked about it last week, but it is important. It was a lot of the talk again in Vegas this week around Blueprint and its impact to commercial real estate. But the Fed officially cut 25 bips earlier this week and perhaps signaled 2 additional rate cuts. So we're looking at about 75 bips down for the year. We know that commercial real estate transaction volume is up in the first half of the year. We know that we are seeing the 5th straight quarter of net positive lease absorption. We know that we're trending. However, vacancy rates are still at record highs. We've talked about that. What's your take on the Fed rate cut? We expected it. Nobody was surprised. How is this going to really boost the commercial real estate world and where we live every day?
Well, so they brought the target range to 4.25, which I don't think anyone was surprised by. We talked last week. I think the only thing we didn't have last week is that inflation print is still sticky. I think is, 2.9. And I'll say it again. I'm just glad this isn't my job, because labor market jobs numbers are not good.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to give it to Besant again. He was out. I mean, day zero even before he got hired for the job, he was campaigning on that 3.33. And so he was essentially forecasting that they want the mandate for the Fed is 2% inflation. And they were pushing for 3 as the victory, because I think they were hedging against potential tariff impacts.
Mm-hmm.
So they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. I think what's bringing in more confusion is obviously what the administration's doing with regards to trying to influence, I guess is a term we could use, influence the governors. They're trying to fire one. They brought one in who was, I think, the only person who voted for half point cut. So you've got the politics piece of it. Then you have, in the good news for the everyday American, is that the average 30-year fixed rate obviously priced in the anticipated cut. So it was 7% mortgage rate average earlier in the year. It's now down to 6.3. So that's good. Hopefully we're going to see some homeowner refinancing and all that pick up, because that's been a tough place. But then
Well, just mortgage, just the applications in general were down so low, and there's so much more supply than demand. This hopefully is the shot in the arm that folks need. But if you do have more rate cuts coming, do you just wait then? Do you wait it out? Like, what, I guess, how do you think about timing here? I mean, and there's what, 1.8 trillion in commercial real estate mortgages that do need to be refinanced in 26. How do you think about timing? This is just the start, right?
Right. Well, in commercial and the consumer, obviously very different, but
Right.
I think I mean, look, thank God I'm not in market on the home side right now, because I don't know about other markets, but certainly where we are, you kind of want to time it to fall or spring. So I think the timing can be good for people to finance in the fall. There would need to be some major movement on inflation print, I think, not to see a couple more quarter point cuts.
Mm-hmm.
And on the flip side, gold is surging. I think it's smashing records. It's like $4,000 per ounce in September. And I think it surged over 70% last 3 years, outpacing the S&P, right? So people are worried about dollar stability and the value of the dollar. You see the same thing with some of the crypto stuff. And then on the other side, treasuries in July saw, I think July was a very good month in terms of Japan and the UK. There is substantial demand. So we saw a bunch of buying of treasuries. So I don't know, you're getting a lot of different signals on different sides here. And to wrap a bow on it, I don't remember if we talked about this on a couple of the last shows, but everything that the Trump admin is doing with crypto, the Russians are claiming basically we're just going to try to push our debt into stable coins and then devalue the stable coins. So a lot of moving pieces, This, at the end of the day, if the overnight and what the Fed does comes down, and if we see commercial fixed rate for commercial is, Justin and I were just talking about this, that's tied to the 10-year plus margin, and then variable rate, I think, is tied to LIBOR. If they come down, great, right? Like, everybody needs to refinance. That $1.8 trillion wall is, I don't think it's as catastrophic as the news tends to make it out, because
right.
Commercial groups are different than the consumer. There's long relationships. They have portfolio of different loans. There's a lot of moving pieces. The Fed, after the great financial crisis, had created some mechanisms for essentially lenders to have some protection. If there's good equity partners behind some of the years, they can be more lenient, and they don't run into some of the compliance issues that they had before the GFC. So all in all, we do need it to come down. I think it will unlock. We're already seeing some construction getting unlocked. There are a bunch of buildings that need access to capital to reposition based off of what tenants are looking for. So if they can kind of hover around that 2.9 from an inflation perspective, I think we're on a pretty good path. But at some point, people are going to be asking about the mandate about 2% inflation. And I just don't think we understand tariff impact yet. I don't think we get it.
Yeah. And I mean, listen, this is the important thing is here, the sort of KPIs in market are trending in the right direction. We've been watching these KPIs for a long time. Rates are starting to come back down. Um, it's going to be an exciting couple of years in commercial real estate. Let's put it that way.
Hey, Brookfield says the next big cycle is starting. So let's go.
All right, we're going to jump to quick hits. We got a bunch of quick hits, and some of them are going to be longer than quick because that's generally what we do. So, number one, right out of the gate, hometown. We talk about the importance of infrastructure upgrades with regards to future cities and quantum. We've talked about can you effectively, with the current infrastructure in a city, perhaps an older city or a sort of infrastructure maybe behind city like Boston, can we move ourselves into the future? Well, Boston Mayor Michelle Wu is all about it. She's pushing a plan to change zoning to allow much larger 700-foot towers in the financial district of Boston, which historically had a cap. However, the people of Boston, not a fan. They're calling it the Manhattanization of Boston. What's your take, my man, as a Boston guy?
I'm not a
You
I'm
get your
not a
Boston hat on there.
I'm not a NIMBY, and we're putting our money where our mouth is because our office, what they did was it's specifically along Washington Street. And so anyone who knows downtown Boston, and we're one road over from Washington Street, it's downtown crossing. It is not a good area. And
Beautiful, love it, vibrant, a lot of good, interesting people,
interesting folks, some good people, but they're increasing the height to 700 feet, and it should help with housing. And so we have a lot of people that talk out of both sides of their mouths, like we need better housing, but not in my backyard. So I think this is a smart move by Mayor Wu. It's an area, look, they're not doing this in Beacon Hill and Back Bay, right? Like, and Back Bay has tall towers, but not in all parts of it. So I think it's a smart area for them to be thinking about doing it. There needs to be better housing. They need to revive that neighborhood. So hopefully they're being what seems like surgical about it in terms of where they're doing it. So,
and like if you could capitalize on what's happening at South Station too, like with what Hines is doing, and again, Washington Street and where our office is on Chauncey Street, just a stone's throw. It's a small walk to South Station. That South Station tower is so critical for the city of Boston. And then, of course, if we can clean up downtown crossing or provide the affordable housing or bring, because again, we have cycles, right? So we had Back Bay, corporate headquarters, kind of had financial district. It was called the financial district for a reason, right? Corporate headquarters. Everybody moved to the seaport because that had boomed, right? There's towers there. This is an area that we need to bring back. I think it's super important. Obviously love to see it. And I'm drawing parallels to kind of what Vornado has done with Penn One. There's a little bit of that.
Yeah. And by the way, like calling it the Manhattanization is kind of funny because on the one hand, New York is arguably the most important city in our country. They do a lot of things really well. Economically, you can't argue that it's the most important. Right. But playing into that New York, Boston, Sox, Yanks rivalry, kind of smart move from the people fighting it. So I can't hate on that from a strategic perspective. The other thing that's happening in the area is that Massport, who runs Logan and the airport, they came up with an idea for a remote terminal in Framingham. So that for people not familiar with Boston, it's west of the city. But essentially you would go to Framingham, you would check your bags, you do your TSA screen there instead of at Logan. You take the bus express right to Logan, skip the line, you're in. Talk about system efficiency and planning. Love this move.
As a TSA pre and clear guy, Matt, I'm out on that. I just kind of bomb right in. I'm one of those memes. Oh, you get to the airport a half hour early, walk on the plane through.
I still, for the life of me, have not seen. I did at one time. I think I was in London or something. I did clear and I skipped a line. But to me, I'm still just like I don't get how it helps me. Most of the time, I just walk through TSA.
Because you fly JetBlue, dude. You don't fly an airline like Delta. Get out of here.
JetBlue's for tweens, as we
know. Next quick hit of the week. Interesting one. The 70-hour work week is back. It's resurfacing. What's your take on this? You like it? You don't like it? You're ripping a Celsius right now. That might power 70-hour work weeks.
Yeah.
What's your take on this?
Well, first off, it was a Forbes article that when I read it, I was like, oh, this is interesting. I didn't know, first off, didn't know the 70-hour work week left. I knew there were a bunch of startup tourists during the ZERP era that wanted to be in
Burn.
startups, but wanted to work, the European 35-hour work week. That
Burn.
doesn't work.
Burn.
But then I dug into the article and they basically referenced two Bay Area AI companies. It was not like a comprehensive segment of the American economy that's burning the midnight oil for 70 hours a week. And it always comes from journalists that, writing articles. They write like 2 to 3 articles a week and they're not working 70 hours, that jump on like one company works really hard and they're like, oh, work-life balance. Well, you don't have to work there. It's a free labor market. Like, stop complaining about it. Like, that shit drives me crazy. But on the flip side, when I was at the All In Summit, Ari Emanuel, famously portrayed by Jeremy Piven on the show Entourage as Ari Gold, he was like, I saw Elon's robots, which I know we'll get to, and we're going to a 3-day work week. So you have this like bifurcation of the people who are in super competitive areas, particularly around AI. I definitely think the Bay Area has repopularized grinding. That apparently the 996, you work from 9 in the morning to 9 at night, 6 days a week. That appears to be back in Silicon Valley culture, which the whole AI race is going to drive that. This is the nice thing about a free labor market. Labor can decide the type of job and commitment that they want.
Yeah. I mean, the reality is 70-hour work week, bankers work 110, 120, 100-hour work weeks. Startup companies are probably above 70. It's not one size fits all, like you said. There's no, oh, it's back for everybody. I'm more interested to see, will this correlate to the office utilization? There's all the sort of vibe coding at midnight and whatnot. Like, let's talk about office utilization. I will say, though, that there are a lot of, in the Bay Area in particular, there are a lot of property managers and asset managers trying to figure out how to reap additional benefits of their leases, because folks are staying at the office well past the regulated hours. So you're talking about HVAC credits and lighting and all of that. So there is something here as it ties to commercial real estate with those longer hours. And then you're predominantly seeing that in the Bay Area and, of course, in JP Morgan's Death Star Manhattan Tower that they just dropped in, which is just epic.
Yeah, they're grinding away.
Speaking of AI, so OpenAI just published a report on how do we use ChatGPT. Somewhat fascinating, some not surprising. I mean, you've seen some of the notes. But prior to this, Chase, how would you think? What did you expect from this before we go into some of the stats? What did you expect? How do people use it?
Well, the younger version of me would have thought that people use it the way I use it. I've got all these crazy folders like for every department at HQO, and I'm just trying to like automate tons of work, get more throughput and production. Apparently that's not how people use it, which I was not surprised. Most of them are using it on the personal level, which is kind of funny. We have a couple of people at our company, we joke about how, one of our colleagues says it's his wife jokes that ChatGPT is his wife.
Awkward.
Well, that's
uncomfortable.
Art Forecasting Life, the movie Her, kind of nailed that. A little uncomfortable. But apparently young people dominate it, not at all surprising. Tech natives. Also bodes well because most of the jobs that you're seeing go away are those entry-level jobs. So if it's the young people that figure out how to use it, they will find their place in the labor.
So yeah, nearly 50% of messages were sent by users 18 to 25. So that is what are they? Gen Z? No. What are they called? Yeah.
Gen Z, right? Yeah.
What was interesting? So 80%. So earlier, 80% had a typically masculine sort of first name, like when you register, right? That's how they're sort of justifying. By June, half of the weekly users now have a typically female first name. So you're moving. What that tells me is you're moving, I guess, away from the really what is like predominantly more male, was that early adopter sort of tech heavy crowd, to this mass usage, right? Everybody's using it. I mean, it does still skew young, but everybody's using it.
Yeah, I do think some people were questioning their methodology in terms of how they got to these numbers, but
Yeah, of course.
I don't think, look, there's a substantial part of any chat AI application is communication. Women tend to have certain strengths that men don't have in communication patterns, so that's not at all surprising to me. And then in terms of the technical prompts, they said that was more male named heavy. Okay.
Right, because men, we're not as
Yeah.
smart as women, and we need, like, I don't know how to do shit, so just tell me how to do it. You know what I mean? Tell me how to do it.
Yeah,
That's how I read
the original AI, my wife.
it. So I read that.
Just tell me what to do.
How do I do it? I just don't know how to do it, so just tell me how to do it, please.
I look, I think they're just marketing, right? Like I think
Yeah.
they're just trying to draw in new user segments, which is smart. But I think like 700 million accounts in what, 3, 4 years, whatever, unbelievable. And then 1.5 million anonymized conversations. So sketchy. Um,
Yeah.
but
I will say the most surprising thing, and we'll move on, was I expected the usage to be predominantly work, and it's not. That to me was the most surprising. That also is a little bit scary for me, and should be scary for what? A lot of other consumer technology companies. I mean, again, I would say my
you
AI,
sound like such a Luddite.
let's go with this. My AI usage skews more to work than it does personal. I use it a lot, but it does skew more work than personal. However, what they're saying here is that 70% of their study was all non-work related.
Yeah, I mean, this
A
was like
Luddite? You
when
think I'm a
people
Luddite? Because I have a ThinkPad guy.
well, yes. Uh, Look, generationally, this stuff happens. There are generations that think online dating is weird, and now online dating is not weird.
It's also
Um,
in decline. Online dating is in decline. Bring
yeah, which
people
I'm
back to
actually in
person.
favor of. I
Yeah,
was one of the people who thought it was weird. No
yeah,
judgment, but it's just you generationally do something, you think it's weird because it's different than what you did before.
right.
And I don't know, I'm bullish about the younger generation. I think a lot of people like to hate on the Z's, but that's also a pattern that has happened every generation.
Do we
So
know what's after Gen Z? Have they named that yet? Are we going back to the top of the
they
alphabet?
have, but
Okay.
I forget what it is.
Like, what are our kids? Do we know?
I don't know. Ask AI.
God damn it.
There's a
Right.
non-work use case for you.
There we go. That'll bring me back to 50-50. Interesting news this week. I don't know if I love it or if I hate it. I'd love to hear where you land on this.
Mm.
Um, Apparently in California, specifically Sacramento, local governments are pushing for new laws to tax vacant commercial space. I'm going to leave that there for a bit before I get into how I think about it. What's your take on adding additional taxes to, I know we call what Massachusetts Taxachusetts, but what do we call California here with high taxes as it is, to vacant spaces?
I went through a real emotional roller coaster when I was reading through the show notes on this one because look, my knee-jerk reaction to more taxes is almost always negative. If you want less of something, tax it. And you just kind of walk through the logic on this. We want less vacant space, and it is a problem in cities when owners sit there, own buildings, they leave it vacant.
Nothing with it.
They're
Okay.
whether they don't have capital or they're looking at land appreciation, whatever it is. There's a lot of nuance to, do they own the land? Do they only own the building? Whatever. But like, let's just simplify it. Um, they don't have any plans to do something, and that's a drag on the whole neighborhood, right? And so I was like, well, if you want less of something, tax it. We want less vacancy. We want vibrant communities and cities. That could be good. But in typical California fashion, I would flip it. And so instead of taxing them, can we
Incentive.
try incentivizing? Can we try
Incentive.
credits?
It's a
Can we
supply and demand problem. I
totally?
mean, yes, there's probably some people sitting out there who aren't doing shit, maybe because they have the capital or not, but they're like, well, we're just going to wait it out. I get that's a drain on the neighborhood, but this is a supply and demand issue. Nobody wants vacant space. I'm not sitting there like, you know what's awesome? My vacant space. You know what I want to pay more taxes on? An asset of mine that's generating zero revenue. That's what I want to pay more taxes
Yeah,
on.
so I would create a policy that's a time frame, right? Start with a carrot, then implement the stick.
Okay,
So
I like that.
if it's a 5 to 10-year plan, make it 5. First 3 years, credits. Last 2 years, we're going to tax you if you don't do anything.
All I can think about when I hear 5-year plan and 10-year plan is like a scene from Big Daddy. Shout out Adam Sandler way back in the day. It's a good movie. I don't know why. It just came to my mind. I like movie callbacks. Back to Sacramento. I like that plan. I think that plays. I think this is really silly. I think it's absolutely silly. I think it's silly. Now again, it's early. They're talking about it. Who knows if it's going to happen? I think this is silly. I think this is a backward step. Got to lead with incentives. I'm with you, man.
All right.
This one's a bummer because I just came from Vegas. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Ripping up the casino, just lighting money on fire. Didn't win a dime.
That sounds great.
Which is a bummer. Had a great time, but 2 large casino projects in Manhattan shut down, rejected. Times Square and a Hudson Yards casino with big names behind them. Jay-Z, Caesars, SL Green on one of them, and then Silverstein on the other. Wanted to develop casinos in Manhattan, rejected. What's your take on this? I mean, we did talk about Vegas tourism in decline 50% year over year. Now, I can speak to that later. What's the take on casinos? Why wouldn't we want this? Because they attract a bunch of
yeah, I mean, they're not necessarily like net positive for society when you just said you quote lit a bunch of money on fire. So I think that's probably the issue.
Somebody made money off my losses. Somebody made money. You
I
could
don't
call
think
me a
those
good.
people are the ones we need.
You could
Jay-Z
call me
does
a
not
good
need your
consumer.
kids' school money. You know what I'm saying? He seems to be doing okay from all accounts. Shout out Jay-Z. He and I have the same birthday. We have a lot in common, so that's cool. I don't know. I think this is democracy at work. It was a 4-2 vote against. I don't know. I think local communities voting on whether they want this in the community is probably a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, could generate some tax money. Help Manhattan get to the next level. I don't know. I'm in favor of it. Let's go. Let's spend some money in casinos. I have a great time in a casino. Made the oxygen's pumping. People are ripping butts around me.
Losing money like crazy.
Losing money like crazy. Oh, it wasn't Red 14. Damn it. Another hundy on the table. Let's go. Yeah, it's probably a good thing. Good thing. All right. We talked about retail or sort of mixed use developments. Mixed use being really attractive. We talked one of the shows ago. We talked about surf parks in Virginia Beach, which is pretty exciting. When you think of mixed use, I think of what comes to mind is what sort of Robert Kraft has done at Patriot Place. Certainly, that's our hometown guy. Incredible, obviously, stadium, entertainment. There's offices there. There's medical. There's lab. Plenty of retail and all that sort of stuff. So is this the rise? We now have Tim Tebow, John Elway, and Blake Bortles, couple of former NFL QBs, teaming up to raise, I don't know, maybe $100 million, just about $100 million to invest in mixed-use developments, all anchored around sports stadiums. What's your take on this?
I love that it's all quarterbacks. Like that. Like I like that move a lot. Like I like that no linemen, no receivers
out of there.
Right?
We got to call the shots, the QBs.
Yep. So I'm very interested to understand, and are we going to have like a niche mixed development, like QB themed? Like, is there going to be anything specific to the fact that it's all quarterbacks? So one, that caught my attention.
Like that.
2, I mean, we talk about this every week, but I mean, experience, right? You would have liked this if it were an indoor quarterback mall. But
True.
I love that they're going experiential mixed use.
Yeah.
I love that it says they're kind of focused on some secondary markets. They're looking at Omaha, they're looking at Charleston, South Carolina.
I
Uh,
think that's what's critical about it. That's what's exciting about it. I think bringing more attraction to those is huge. There was an interesting line in the article, which I completely call BS on. The line states that they're not just figureheads; they actually plan to be involved in day-to-day operations. So I
that
heard
makes
that,
me
and I'm like,
nervous.
I heard that.
That
Well, no,
makes
I
me
heard that, and I'm just like, they're absolutely just figureheads. Like it is the exact opposite of what they
nervous.
did.
That makes me a little nervous. And look, that's coming from somebody like, if they're influencing the experience, awesome. And they're in those operations. I don't know much about. It's just an interesting combo. Tebow, Elway, and Bortles. Like Elway and Tebow, I think are kind of different guys, but
Yeah, but they connected with back in the Broncos days, right? That was how they got
right,
together. Yeah.
right. Well, I think we talked church attendance and development was surging. I think we talked about that
Yep.
last month.
Yep.
So you work in Tebow on that angle. I think
Okay.
that
That's
they're
the
hitting some interesting trends here. They're hitting some interesting trends, but everything is experiential, everything's mixed use. And I like that they're going for Jacksonville, apparently.
Yeah, I think this is huge. I think the mixed use trend here is super exciting. I think you can draw. I mean, because listen, the other thing that's happening is you were starting to see sports tickets and attendance decline a bit because of folks can watch it, the television and all the cameras. Is you could say an experience of specifically watching a game is better on your TV, all the angles. But you really need to nail what that in person. You can't trade what the tailgating. What else can you bring around the sort of sports environment? And then if you're just shopping and you're going to the retail side of the house, or there's a Whole Foods next to a stadium, what can you bring there? I think this trend is amazing, and I think we're going to see $100 million is clearly not enough, but I think you're going to see billions and billions of dollars spent on this. We're talking to a handful of other projects with large sports teams doing similar things. I love this trend. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, and we talked about private equity getting into youth sports, and apparently at the Jacksonville
Don't like
location.
private equity getting into youth
No,
sports.
I
They get
I don't
lighting money
that at
on
all.
fire. I don't
But
like it.
apparently these guys are getting into youth programs and an academy infrastructure. So everybody's getting in. Blake Bortles, early signal.
QBs, hot route, hot route. Okay, back to your call out to Mr. Musk and his robots. Before we get to the quantum review this week, which is an interesting one, then we got Rex U, and then we got one more bit of news. We're maybe halfway through the show, maybe not, depending on how much we continue to talk. Tesla has apparently received a $10 billion order for its humanoid robots for big pharma infrastructure. Um, is this real? Are robots here? Are they ready to take over? We've talked about robo taxis, talked about the robo taxi jumping at the top of the app store. Waymo, Uber, everybody's focused on it. Are they finally here to take over?
I think by end of year we're gonna go from the robots are coming to the robots are here.
Are you going to be able to tell the difference between a human and a robot in a factory?
Well, I saw a bunch of them out at All In. You can definitely tell the
Robot?
difference, but they're bringing and everybody's like, oh, the robots are gonna like fold all our laundry. Okay, I'm cool with that. But they had ultimate fighting robots, so you're gonna
That
watch
scares the shit out
two
of me.
robots just fight. And so I was expecting these like big machines. These things are like 2.5 feet, and they had them in the lobby. And I was like, yeah, this is a little underwhelming. Like I was expecting these like
Yeah,
machines that were going to be
monsters.
designed like warriors, and it's just
I
these
don't know.
two little dudes that are just kind of like,
The future of warfare, modern warfare. We talk about robotics and drones, right? You no longer fight on the front lines with bayonets anymore, right? Is
What's
are
that?
we going
Is
are
that
we
what we're
going back there? Are we going back to have UFC style country exhibition events? This is how modern warfare. We just have our robots fight and see who wins.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just keeping an eye out for the robot advocacy groups starting to pop up. So
Interesting.
who's for the bots' rights? So
My screen is saying app's not focused again. Shout out Justin, fix this stupid
yeah,
software.
as we learned, the software is a little passive aggressive. It's not app is not focused. It's apparently if the person is not focused on the app.
And
So
it said it next to you too. So it's not just me
it
this
is.
time.
It is. I see
Yeah,
it. I
not
just
looking around and
yeah,
bouncing between tabs. It's telling
yeah.
me to focus on the show. Focus on the show. Thanks. We
See
did
the
get out there
bots.
a little bit.
They're here.
Quantum review this week. Speaking of robots, I don't know. This one's a little odd. I guess maybe I'm ready for this. Maybe I'm not ready for this. The Albanian government introduced an AI quote unquote minister. The prime minister, Eddie Rama, unveiled an AI generated bot named Diella. I
DLM.
hope I'm saying that right, which is son in Albanian in parliament. It's a fully digital minister meant to increase transparency and speed in government operations. Listen, I think if you just take that, meant to increase transparency and speed in government operations, I'm okay with that. Diella delivered a 3-minute speech on screen talking about values, yada. She works as Diella, son works as virtual assistants. But are we there yet? Okay, ChatGPT, we know still hallucinates. Like I said, the callback to when ChatGPT 5 launched, I was on ChatGPT 5 asking ChatGPT about ChatGPT 5. No, I think I was on ChatGPT 4 asking about the launch of ChatGPT 5 because I wasn't upgraded yet. ChatGPT 5 had launched that day. ChatGPT 4 said there's not interested in ChatGPT 5. I don't know anything about it. So 4 is afraid of 5. There's a callback to one of my kids' favorite shows. Why is 6 afraid of 7? So where are we at? Where are we? Because 7, 8, 9, spoiler. So where are we at? Are we ready? Are we ready for an AI minister?
I mean, again, the outcome of how they describe this transparency and efficiency
That's good.
speaks to me. It speaks to quantum cities and government efficiency and all the great things. Um, the idea of like who in the org chart does Diella report to? And I would love to know how that dynamic works.
That's
Saying that
interesting.
Diella
Let's
is a
go on that
member.
head for a little bit. So when you have all these robots that we just talked about, these humanoid robots, when you are doing, which we're going through ourselves, right? 2026 planning, 27 planning, and so on, looking at ideal org structure. Where do robots fit in there? Where do they report? Do they report historically to people? Do they report to the top? Are they the managers?
I
That's
mean, I think the end of every terrifying sci-fi movie is when the robot stops reporting into a human, right? So I think
yeah,
I would like to know from the Albanians and the prime minister who does Diella report into and
interesting.
how is it going from an HR perspective? I'm not wild about the human naming. That like just make it the transparency and efficiency AI rather than humanizing the Diella like
No,
that.
I 100% disagree with that. Couldn't disagree more. I think you need the humanization of robots. Absolutely. I think it's the only way to get it to stick. You need a name. Love the name Tiela.
Well, I
Again,
mean, look, we're talking about it, so if the goal is to make it stick, I guess you're right. But if we're trying not to have Diella take over,
so you have a robot in your house folding your laundry, and you're going to say, hey, laundry folding robot, do you mind folding my laundry today? Why
yeah,
wouldn't you name it something like Lily? Lily is nice.
that was my grandmother's name, dude. Too close, too close.
Really? Didn't know
Yeah,
that. I just had an L with, I was trying to get Lily in laundry. I don't
yeah,
know.
already too close. We got problems.
All right, so we won't do that. However, this is not the first time governments have obviously started to sort of tie in an AI and virtual assistants. There's a handful of examples in Portugal and Estonia, Sweden, Argentina, and so on. However, the majority of these, I guess they're more announcements and sort of PR. They're all really focused around these virtual assistant platforms. I mean, you talked about Dubai the other day and sort of the digital infrastructure that they have there. So that's not, I don't think that's that's not new, right? It's more what is the end game, I guess, here, or are we're just trying things, right? We're just trying things out. Is there a role for an AI sort of minister in government or parliament and so on, or are we're trying? And I give them credit for trying. AI is all about exploration right now.
Yeah, and I think look, the huge problem is people work during a certain time, and the hours that you can interact with a lot of governments are less than and during the hours that people work. So most of the use cases are like,
Hmm.
hey, you can interact with AI to do things that you need to do at any
Right.
time. I'm 100% for that, because the government needs to be always on in certain ways. When a citizen needs to get something done, they don't need to be proactively always on, because that, again, talking about the end of a sci-fi movie. But what I thought was hilarious in the notes here is I like how Estonia is just leaning into it. The name of their AI virtual assistant is Bureaucrat.
You like
Yeah,
that?
like might as well call, like, hey guys, this is just another bureaucrat. It just happens to respond really quick. Probably isn't going to get it right, but bureaucrat.
I do
Uh,
like that.
I
I
like
think what was even more interesting about Diella is she had to rise through the ranks before she was
that. Oh, do y'all
promoted.
have to earn it?
She had to earn it. So
Hmm.
she had to achieve 1 million plus interactions before she was elevated to the captain rank. So from KPI perspective, and you think
Respect,
talk about HR and performance reviews, um, she's on a little bit of a hot streak.
respect.
So I'm okay with that. I mean, listen, I think
Does DL
it's
get employee of the month?
yeah. Instead, she also got promoted with a pay raise. With a pay raise. Now, obviously, robots don't get paid. Um, I don't think. Do they get paid? No,
No,
robots
they
don't get paid.
just suck up electricity.
That's how they get paid. They
Hmm.
suck up electricity. Interesting. I don't know. I think it's a start of something really cool. I think it's important. It's critical. I'm down for the robots, and I'm down for human names of the robots. Okay, this week's Rex U real estate experience. Um, hey, listen, this is back-to-back weeks of live reporting. I just realized
Yeah,
that
you're from the front lines.
from the front lines. You were out in LA at the All In conference or the All In summit. I was out at Blueprint this past week in Vegas. It was great. It was at the Venetian, which is a lot of fun. Last time I was at the Venetian was your bachelor party many years ago. So there was some fun. There was some fun that happened there. So let's talk a little bit about Blueprint. It was a really good event to interact and meet people. I think the
Mm.
content might have lacked a little bit. Fifth Wall was there. They gave some really good keynotes. Fifth Wall is obviously a venture fund. I just love the name Fifth Wall. I wish I came up with it. I really wish I came up with it right, because
The green trend,
there's 4 walls and that's their fifth
there's
wall,
a fifth
right?
one.
There's a fifth wall.
There's more than
Um,
most buildings have four. They're fifth. Love
they're
it.
the fifths. Ah, oh, God, just
Love
epic
it.
naming.
I got an
Yeah, they
idea.
talked a lot
I
about
got an idea.
they
Hey, hey,
talked
hey. Sixth wall.
It's at the ceiling of the floor. Seventh wall. It's got to be seventh wall. It can't be 6. It'll be 7th because you have a ceiling and floor, right? You got to be 7th. Well, let's go with it. Yes, they talked about sort of the green trend. A lot of the conversations were about, of course, artificial intelligence was a big one. Of course, about interest rates, talking about sort of where we are from a sort of capital markets perspective. What lacked for me was just the talk around technology and tech stacks. And it wasn't the lack of it. The majority of the panels and the discussions were around technology. But it felt like I took a step backwards in listening to a lot of them, which was a bummer. I'm certainly biased, and I had a great panel with Ajay from JLL Spark. It was electric. I think there was maybe 40 people who came to it. So
Ooh,
kudos to us.
40 heavy hitters, no doubt.
Hopefully there's a photo. I wasn't wearing socks. I had some ridiculous ankle cleavage on the stage there, which I'm sure people did not enjoy. But the one of the specific quotes that I had, and I won't name the fund, but it's a fund, it's a REIT that everybody knows. They were just talking about the lack of ROI, the lack of transparency around their tech stack, how they can't tie back any of the tech investments that they have made, either on experience, either on operations, whatever it may be, to anything real. They were talking about retention, for example. They're talking about NOI. I don't know. I tried to get on stage at some point. They have an app to do Q&A. I couldn't figure that out. So I just asked for a microphone. They wouldn't let me get up on the microphone. They wouldn't let me do that. I really wanted to lean into that, how I think it's outrageous that there is no transparency there. And then I started to think about, yes, a lot of the problems that we're trying to solve is around the data and the intelligence around the tech stack. But I was bummed about that, man.
Well, I mean, I think there's kind of two tracks here, which is I do think a lot of the tech conferences are kind of like Groundhog's Day, where
Yeah.
Different name of a company, same pitch that we heard 5 years ago. There's a lot of point solutions chasing too few problems.
Yep.
So a lot of it is in prop tech. It's a brutal industry, crack through in commercial. There's all sorts of structural issues from different capital partners at different buildings. So you got to take extra costs of sale. Even when you win a portfolio, they don't get to make unilateral
Yep.
decisions in certain instances. So you're taking CAC, cost of acquisition, multiple times. So it's very challenging on that front. And anybody who's been in technology knows that it's distribution over technology in so many ways. So it's brutal on that front. And then on the other front, I don't think the industry has brought certain skill sets and people in to be successful with the technology. So I think that's an issue. I do think I'll try
Service
to
that
dig it.
that did come up a little. That did come up. The services, or sort of the lack of. It's not just if you build it, they will come.
Yeah. Well, and part of the issue is that they hire one person
Mm-hmm.
from technology that's not really a technologist. And then they're, look, you get no budget and you can't do anything really. Like you have very limited mandate. And then it's like, well, why isn't this shit working? Right. So there's the bifurcation of the people who are taking it seriously and really think through, like they don't have R&D budget, right?
Right.
So there's no R and then there's no D in the sense of technology. So they're kind of squeezing it from a budget perspective. And the industry needs, so Gary Vaynerchuk, who was out super early on the value
Mm-hmm.
of social media in
Yep. Very
marketing.
good. Yeah.
And anyone who's watched Gary Vee speak, he's a very bombastic guy. And he
Loud.
used to go into the CMOs of the Fortune 500 and they would hammer him on ROI, not surprising. And he gave this speech at a conference where he was like, well, what's the ROI of your mother? People naturally would get offended. And he was like, your mother is your whole source of being and life. You can't put an ROI on that. Like everything on social is essentially like the ROI of your mother. I didn't totally follow the argument,
It's
but
electric.
he moved a bunch of people into budget
Emotional.
into social media. So I think there needs to probably be some more articulate version of that, because as we've
Yeah.
now seen, social media drives immensely more ROI and targeted outcomes from a marketing and advertising perspective than traditional channels. So
Yeah, but I think that to me, I agree with that. But to me, it was just the dismissal. It just sounded like it was like, I don't know, it's too hard to get the data and I don't really want to track it. So I don't really know the ROI. Like,
well, this is where they haven't hired real tech. Like, it's amazing when you go in and they really haven't kind of first principles built what is all of the data that if one, what's the data we would need to drive real intelligence and transformation? Two,
right.
where does that data live? If it doesn't live anywhere, how do we get it and mine it?
Yes.
And then what are the outcomes? And then like, how do you build it as a muscle, right? Like it's a muscle, it's a program, not a project. So, and now people are cracking this. It's very hard, but people are cracking it. And the ones that crack it are going to win. And the ones that don't and think it's like, I will just wait, I would short them.
Yeah, I think to me, and again, so we talked a little bit about the content there. I think it was, I mean, listen, it's a great event. We had a great time. We had certainly a booth for HQO, but it's the people side of the house, right? This isn't anything new with conferences. Had some amazing conversations with a bunch of our customers. Saw a handful of folks, which I'll just start name dropping, some friends of the pod, Pat McGrath, Savil's friend of the pod, Ishai. Learner hadn't seen Ishai in a while. Just had his third kid. Congratulations.
Hey, congrats. Miss you, Isha.
Shout out on the pod. And then Harshit from Divco. Just an incredible person. He brings a lot to the table. Always have awesome conversations with him. Saw our friends from the MIT Center for Real Estate, Steve Weichel and James Scott. Obviously, we got that big conference that we partnered with them on October 16th. Shout out, link in the show notes. Sign up. We announced Travis Kalanick. Met up some investors. So this was actually interesting. Hennessy Capital in particular, really back to leaning into the space as a whole. They said they had a lot of really good conversations sort of in the prop tech, real estate technology space. And then Cove Hill, same thing. So I think the capital markets is warming back up, specifically on the sort of venture and private equity side, to the world we live in, which has been relatively quiet. James Scott asked me a question at the happy hour that we hosted, which he said was a sort of a theme in the conference, is when is our next big exit? And not HQO, just the industry, the category. When is that, and who's it going to be? And then he was referencing kind of the high tower VTS. So that I thought was interesting. We riffed on that. I guess I'll sort of kick it to you before we get to one more bit of news. When is that?
Well, I think looking at our friends and competitors over at Cove, congrats, they did a deal with Lead Edge.
We did talk about that. Yep. His
We're-
comment was not big enough. Not big enough. Congrats to those guys, though.
Yeah,
big,
but I would point to it as positive in the sense that word on the street is it's a good multiple. And I think a lot of people have been locked up because the multiple math just doesn't work. So I think we're coming back into prop tech, getting multiples that will get some capital moving. So I would expect I'm gonna call something big will happen by end of 26. I would argue though that the Lesson deal was a big one. I would argue that Metropolis literally buying a parking operating company was a massive one. So I think there are some ones that people overlook, but we need the cadence to pick up.
Agree. All right, we're up almost about an hour. One more bit of news this week. 3 more bits of news this week. One more bit of news this week. Speaking of Vegas, this one is interesting. I guess surprising, maybe tied to 70-hour work weeks, maybe tied to 120-hour work weeks. I don't know. The headline is out from the Wall Street Journal. America loves cocaine. I don't really know. They have some interesting stats here. The cocaine consumption in the Western U.S. has shot up 154% since 2019. Fentanyl use has been falling. Thankfully, there was an interesting podcast with JD Vance and who's the funny guy who's sober with the mullet? What's his name?
Funny guy with the mullet.
Well, he interviewed Trump and he whatever. I forget his name.
Oh, he fell off his chair at the inauguration.
Yes, he did. Whatever his name is, I got to look that up as I do this. But he made a funny comment that you can't even do coke in America anymore because it's cut up with so much crap. Well, listen, Theo Vaughn. It was Theo Vaughn. Theo Vaughn made the comment you can't do coke in America anymore. He obviously had an issue with that. But maybe you can now, Theo. It's coming back.
By the way, you said maybe 70-hour work week. West Coast is back working, and 154% increase in West Coast cocaine consumption. Directly correlated. Like, I don't think that's surprising at all.
I think that, listen, AI consumption up, cocaine consumption up, mortgage rates, Fed rates down. Those are all the KPIs I need to know that we're going to have.
Fentanyl down. Great.
Fentanyl down. The article actually was a little more serious. I know we're joking about it. It's talking about America's war on drugs and all sorts of fun stuff. But with a hell of a headline like America loves cocaine again, I obviously had to talk about that. One more bit of news this week. The second bit of news this week, which I'm going to shuffle around a little bit because I guess it somewhat ties to cocaine. This one is just electric, not surprising at all. Rick's Cabaret, which is a public company. Rick's Cabaret, owner of strip clubs. They're all over Manhattan. Well, they got in a little bit of trouble. Their execs were indicted for tax fraud and bribery. Specifically, they were bribing their auditors with lap dances. You can't even make this up. It's just so perfect. It's so perfect. They bribed the state auditor over 13 years. They got out of about $8 million worth of taxes. The shares are down 16% on the news. You just put strip club owner indicted for bribing an auditor with strippers.
Yeah. Well, first off, alleged.
Sorry, my apologies. Allegedly.
But apparently they called the in-house currency dance dollars. Shocker. I mean,
fun coupons, dance dollars, whatever you want to call it. Electric bit of news this week, not surprising at all. The last bit of news this week, and this sounds absolutely boring as hell, and there's no chance it gets off the ground. Commercial real estate is coming to reality TV. So I love $1 Million Listing. Okay. Huge fan of Bravo in general. All the Bravo shows. $1 Million Listing, amazing because it's residential. It's gorgeous. $20 million mansions out in LA, $50 million mansions out in LA. Absolutely electric. The characters on that show, the Altman brothers, one of those guys is a Boston guy, Josh Flagg. Oh my God.
There's a Hamilton. Apparently, I went to school with Hamilton. Who's the main guy?
I think he was on the New York one.
Whoever that guy is.
Ryan Serhant. Was it Serhant?
Ryan Serhant, yeah.
He's the man. Anyways, I absolutely love $1 Million Listing. There's a show coming to A&E called The Real Estate Commission. It's debuting in October. That's tracking an Albany-based broker named Todd and his work in commercial real estate deals, offices, warehouses, and malls. I've already fallen asleep.
Oh, I'm super long this show. I love this idea. Love this idea. First,
I want to go negotiate and sit alongside a fucking industrial warehouse commission negotiation between us.
I love this. I don't know anything about Todd. I bet he's electric. I bet this is a star in the making. And I have been saying, you've been in the meetings. How long have I been saying? There's a whole channel called HGTV and commercial. When you think about Hudson Yards and the story of building on the train tracks and the people that work there, they shoot music videos from like the CEO's office. Like they had a private Christina Aguilera concert. Like the stories of commercial warrant the same content that some dumb house being flipped in the sticks of Tennessee. Like, oh my God, there's mold in the walls. Yeah, no shit. Like,
yeah, but that is good.
And people love that. People love that. Whereas Todd's jumping on a gold rush here. I think this show is electric. I think Todd has become a part of the zeitgeist.
Like the Albany commercial market. Where's that at, Todd?
We're going to be having Todd on this show. I guarantee you. It's going to be awesome.
Get Todd on the show. The Albany market just can't be fucking booming. I don't know. We got to get stats on Albany.
But it's going to be electric. It's going to be electric. I love this. I love this move.
The best line, and we'll leave you with this: a good deal falls apart 3 times before it actually happens.
One no closer to a yes, baby.
Fucking Todd. Absolute legend.
At Star. I got to go look him up.
Is born. Great show this week. Another week of live reporting. Thanks for coming out.
See ya.